morning to you. Thank you for joining us on tonight's program. You are tuned into Newswatch on Hope TV, where you look and live. My name is Tiffany Wamboy. Our sign language interpreter for today is Boniface Murithi. Do reach out to us on our WhatsApp line, which is 0708 222 and our SMS line is 22232. Now on to stories making headlines. The Kenya Kwanza coalition has named 7 members that will engage in negotiations with the Azimio la Umoja coalition. The 7-member team that comprises 4 members of the National Assembly and 3 senators were unveiled on Tuesday after a parliamentary group meeting at State House, which was chaired by President William Ruto. And as Alice Dana now reports, the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group has urged its bipartisan negotiation team to engage with the opposition in strict adherence to the law.
The 14-member bipartisan team is now constituted after the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group, chaired by President William Ruto, on Tuesday endorsed 7 legislators for bipartisan negotiations with their Azimio la Umoja counterparts in a bid to end the acrimony that saw the opposition side rally its supporters to stage anti-government demonstrations countrywide. Kenya Kwanza's team includes Kakamega Senator Boni Khalwale, Tharaka MP George Murugara, nominated Senator Esther Ekenyuri, Kibwezi West MP Mwengi Mutuse, Taita Taveta Woman Representative Lydia Haika, Elders MP Adan Kainan, and Bomet Senator Hilary Sigei.
Appreciating that the Constitution of Kenya gives Parliament the singular mandate of resolving all issues that are of concern to the people of Kenya, the parliamentary group meeting agreed with the President on a parliamentary bipartisan approach in resolving such matters. Azimio
team already proposed its 7 members on Thursday last week during the Azimio la Umoja parliamentary group meeting held in Machakos County. They include Nairobi Senator and ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, Narok Senator Ledama Olekina, and Kitui Senator Enoch Wambua. The other members are MPs Otiende Amolo of Rarieda, David Piko Singh of Pokot South, Millie Odhiambo of Suba North, and Amina Mnyanzi of Malindi. The bipartisan talks are expected to address the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IBC), the high cost of living, among other issues.
And the instructions that our team have are to limit their conversation on matters that are of great concern to the people of Kenya, the IEBC, with regards to that bipartisan committee. With regards to the issue of a cost of living, as you have spoken about, we have reaffirmed as a PG that we believe that the policy this government has put in place are working.
The Kenya Kwanza PG has urged its members to strictly adhere to the Constitution in addressing matters raised by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition.
In reaffirming our commitment to the dictates of the Constitution and the rule of law, this PG today has directed our team nominated in this bipartisan process to strictly adhere to our Constitution and the established laws of the land in addressing the reconstitution of the IEBC panel, as was communicated by His Excellency the President on Sunday, the 2nd of April 2023.
The ruling party also noted that it will resist attempts by the opposition to force or blackmail the government to implement failed policies of the last regime. It called upon the opposition to adhere to the rule of law and constitutionalism and pursue all issues of concern through established institutions under the Constitution.
We resist the attempts by the opposition to force or blackmail the government to implement failed policies of the last regime.
For Hope TV Newswatch, I'm Alice Diana.
In other news, the government has released a detailed report of the Public Service Performance Management Unit. The release of the report aims at promoting transparency and accountability of allocated funds and resources to the public service. Grace Ahati with the details.
President William Ruto has presided over the release of the report on evaluation of the performance of ministries, state corporations and tertiary institutions for the 2021-2022 financial year. The performance contracting is the flagship performance management tool that the government has adopted in the running of the public service. According to the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, performance contracting aims to ensure accountability in the use of public resources both at the institutional as well as individual employee levels. Mudavadi further added that the report seeks to improve efficiency in service delivery by holding officers accountable for results.
Performance contracting has increasingly become an important tool for improving public sector performance. If implemented well, it is an instrument that should assist the country achieve its long-term economic development policy goals.
Speaking during the official launch, President William Ruto assured that his government is working towards running a stable economical government by reducing unnecessary borrowing. The president also addressed the issue of delayed civil servant salaries, stating that the government will not at any cost borrow money to pay salaries, but assuring that the issue is being managed.
It is the first time that we are having delayed salaries. Yes, it is the first time we are having delayed salaries. But it's also the first time we are having such monumental debts. I want to assure the country that that is managed. We have turned the corner. All I assure the country is this, the commitment I made that we are not going to borrow money to spend on recurrent expenditure, including salaries. That is the position of the government of Kenya. We will not do that. We are well on course in running a stable economy that is not dependent on unnecessary, excessive borrowing.
According to the report, over 400 public institutions in the executive are on first-level performance contracts. The judiciary is also implementing performance management through performance contracting and also a number of county governments and constitution commissions. Every financial year, public institutions formulate and implement a performance based on their strategic plans, approved budget and annual work plan. Reporting for Hope TV Newswatch, I'm Grace Ahati.
Thank you, Ahati, for that report. The Movement for Democracy and Growth, known as MDG Party, is set to embark on a 10-day membership recruitment drive in Siaya County. The party, which joined the Kenya Kwanza Alliance shortly after the August general elections, is led by Ugenya Member of Parliament David Ochieng. Local party official Frederick Oyugi has urged local residents to turn up and register in the recruitment drive, which will take part in all registered polling stations in the county. Speaking during a recruitment drive in Daho in Ugunja sub-county, Oyugi stated that previous registration exercise have served as preparation for the upcoming drive, which kicks off next week on Monday.
We are launching a massive grassroots registration for MDG party membership in Ugenya. We are targeting a population of 10,000 in this constituency to the minimum. After this, we'll embark on countrywide registration from our neighboring constituencies, our Luo Nyanza counties, western counties, and probably even in this coastal region, so that we are very sure and determined that through the leadership of Honorable David Ochieng and this government of Kenya Kwanza, the Luo Nyanza are going to get liberation of multi-party democracy, which is the core reason why most of Luo leaders have been fighting for, so that we have a multi-party democracy in Nyanza. A person, you belong to a party of your choice, a party you want, so that we get variety of leaders, because we have several parties. If you have one party, sometimes it prevents getting right leaders who don't know right people on top to get certificates to become leaders. But if you have more parties, you open an avenue to give more people chance to give their mind to get in competition. So in the end, we get right leadership, and especially MDG, we are targeting youth and women because they are the majority in population in this country. After that population, we'll be able to embark on pushing the agenda of young people and women on a progressive manner. So that we are also requesting our counterparties that we should not politicize this process and associate it with animalize. MDG is a registered political party with an elected party leader in the whole of this region. So we want those other parties also to give us space to do registration out of will, so that we also get our members, so that when competition comes, it becomes free, fair, and square, and the majority to win.
Tunaomba hii mambo ya development tukue pamoja kama watu wa Ugenya. Hatutaki kukaa ati watu wa ODM wanakaa kando, watu wa MDG wanakaa kando. Sisi wakaji wa Ugenya tunataka kwa hii mambo ya development tukue kama kitu kimoja.
Now, medics from the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, known as KMPDU, have once again decried the delayed release of funds to counties, resulting in a consequent delay in salary reimbursements to county workers. The medics, led by Secretary General Dr. Davji Atela, lamented the delayed funds to devolved functions, adding that the health sector has not been prioritized as it should. According to Dr. Atela, more than 40 counties are yet to pay health workers or remit statutory deductions, thereby leaving out the workers from receiving access to crucial services.
Find it that the government has to prioritize healthcare. Healthcare has been considered to be an essential service in every talks of the government, both the national and the county government, but we see that to be different because the healthcare providers are not prioritized. And that's why, as we speak, we have those who work in the independent commissions, the police and the teachers, having not experienced the salary delays that the people in the counties are experiencing. It's a time that the government has to reframe the essential nature of healthcare workers and the essential nature of health service provision. As we ask this, we want and the national government on notice. 7 days, if they fail to comply, but each and every county, the healthcare workers, for the government to react and pay the salary.
And in our special take for tonight's program, recent reports of Kenyans in the family setting taking matters into their own hands, often leading to dire consequences, have dogged our local news. As husbands and wives struggle to find better ways of dealing with emerging family conflicts, mediators are advising that such conflicts can be turned to an advantage for the couple and strengthen their relationship if handled well. Our news editor Melissa Odwar spoke exclusively with Njeri Ndiangui, a certified mediator and executive director of the Bridges of Peace initiative, on these issues.
Welcome to this candid conversation that we're having with Njeri Ndiangui, the executive director of Bridges of Peace initiative. Bridges of Peace initiative. She's joining us here on Hope TV Newswatch as we discuss some of the issues that are rising in the society, from the social aspects to the political arena, where conflict seems to be a running theme, and resolution thereof of the same seems to be a growing concern, because everybody has a certain way of addressing the conflict that is arising. Maybe Njeri is going to give us perspective of how to address the conflict that arises in our lives individually and also in the societies that we are in. Karibu sana Njeri.
Thank you.
To Hope TV.
Thank you very much.
And so off the screen we were discussing about how our society right now is facing this growing crisis from the home level.
Yes.
Where couples are trying to solve the conflict that is arising between them.
Yeah.
On a terrible note, some of them lose their lives in the process.
Yeah.
Because one partner is pushing the other.
Yes.
And daring the other, go ahead. I am not resolving this conflict. Go ahead and take your life if possible.
Yeah.
And we have had a recent case of somebody, the wife actually dying, as the man was filming this unfortunate event.
Yeah.
So as peace and mediation experts or professionals, so to speak, where would you start with such a situation?
Thank you, Millicent.
Melissa.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. We are actually living in some very interesting times, and people are deeply broken. People are deeply wounded, and because they are in that situation, any other conflict that happens in their lives becomes a trigger. Okay, which means it is a trigger. It is not the main thing. There are very many other things that are underlying, and until people come to a place where they're actually seeking for healing, for where they've been broken in their own lives, for where they are wounded in their own lives, it's going to be very difficult dealing with any other issue that arises in their lives. And you know what? We must make peace with conflict. We must become friends with conflict, because as long as you are alive, you're going to face conflicts in your life.
Hold up. So we are peace-loving Kenyans, peace-loving people. We want peace.
Yes.
And we are pursuing peace. The scriptures actually tell us, pursue peace with all men.
Absolutely.
Yes, on the other hand, you're telling us conflict is a recipe for day-to-day life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How do we marry these two then?
And I think that's why the scripture tells us to pursue peace.
Okay, pursuing it.
Pursue it today, pursue it tomorrow, pursue it for as long as you are alive. Okay? Because every single moment presents an opportunity for your peace to be taken away. Because right here, the way I perceive things, the way I view things, the way I think of solutions is absolutely different from your own perspectives and your own ideas and where you are coming from. So we are different in all ways. We think very differently. And that means just the two of us being over here, we just require a few minutes together and we will be conflicting.
Oh my gosh.
We will not be agreeing with each other. So how do we deal with it? How do we make sure that we prepare ourselves, okay, with the necessary skills, with the necessary tools, so that when conflict happens, then we can resolve it in constructive ways.
So at the home level,
yes,
how then do we resolve this kind of conflict where it has escalated to the point where I am daring my partner to take their life? Go ahead and take your life. I am not resolving, I'm not budging from my position, from my point of view. It is my way or the highway.
This is what I would say. If it's a situation with a couple, for instance, you're not agreeing, and it could be, colleagues, it could be siblings, it could be parents and their children, you've gotten to that place where you cannot totally agree with each other again, okay? There is help. Bring a neutral and impartial third party to help you. Do not die with your problems. Do not dare each other to die. It doesn't benefit anybody. You all end up losing, but there is a way that you can look for another person. Nowadays, even the court has actually embraced the issue of mediation. That when people go for court, particularly, with family cases, marriage, any case that is not of criminal nature, you are actually first of all sent for mediation. You are sent to an accredited mediator who is trained and who is impartial, who can actually sit down with you and see what is not working. Of course, the first is that the two of you try to resolve the issue. But if it gets to that point where you cannot, okay? Nowadays, there are so many certified and accredited mediators in the communities, and they continue to be trained. So do not allow yourself to go to that place where you kill each other, you harm each other, you do damages to your children that can never be, undone. There is a way that you can get help, and I think that is really my call to everyone. If you find yourself in a conflict where you are not able to resolve it yourself, please look for a professional mediator. Okay? When you go to a mediator, maybe some of the things that come is that someone needs to go for counseling. Someone needs to go for therapy. Okay? But meanwhile, you are agreeing on how do you continue relating, living with each other without harming each other, And conflicts will always be there. And let nobody lie to you that for them it's all peace. Okay? Peace is something that we have to continually search for. You can never arrive. It has to be a journey. It has to be an everyday journey. If you find yourself in conflict, don't start thinking, oh my goodness, I'm the only one. Oh my goodness, this situation is happening in my home. Oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. Why could it? Just know it is normal to be in a conflicting situation. It is absolutely normal and it is acceptable. And what is needed is looking for meaningful ways, for constructive ways of resolving those conflicts. So do not be ashamed. Do not be ashamed. Remind yourself it is normal to be in conflict. It is normal to be in conflict. And this conflict can actually be a source of growth. It could be a source of taking you to the next step, because a conflict means something needs to change. A conflict means something is not working. Something needs to be done differently. A system needs to change. A structure needs to change. A person needs to see a different perspective. You know, a person needs to think from another different perspective. That is what a conflict means. We always only see the negatives of conflict, but there are benefits that can actually come with conflict, even in a family situation and a family setting. It is very possible that yes, you could be in a conflict, but that conflict makes sure that the next 10 years of your life, you will actually be happy. You will actually be dealing with different types of conflict, not that particular one.
All right, to take our first short break here on Newswatch, we will be back with these and more updates. Stay tuned.
First Thessalonians chapter number 5 verse 17. Pray without ceasing, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you.
On Watch and Pray, we pray for you and with you regarding your prayer requests, our nation and the whole world.
There's this one who is saying there's a marriage separation in marriage, but let's pray for the babies and then restore also. Father God Almighty,
join Mama Eda Adoyo on Watch and Pray every Monday from 7:30 p.m. live on Hope TV, where you look and live.
Expect the unexpected on the Stars Show.
It's forever enough, always enough.
Anything goes from singing, dance to gymnastics to mind-blowing art. All you need is a skill and a style quality.
Make sure it is very straight and clean.
Just remember to join us every Saturday with me, your host, Tamika Arnett.
Welcome back to tonight's broadcast. Now, 73.7% of Kenyans are reported to lack health insurance coverage, with a higher percentage attributed to women. According to the Institute of Economic Affairs, that is IEA Kenya's Demographic Health Survey of 2022, 74% of women do not have any health cover, with that of men standing at 73.5%. This translates to one in the country having some type of health cover. 23.5% of women are covered a fund, that is NHIF, while that of their male counterparts stands at 24.1%. And 44.2% of men have either private or commercial covers, while that of women is 3.8%. In the same report, the number of persons with health insurance covers in urban areas is higher, standing at 41% with men and 39% of women, while that in rural areas stands at 19% of men and 20% of women. Now, as the first academic term of this year is almost coming to an end, 15-year-old Josephine Faida Katana, who scored 358 marks in Kaloleni sub-county of Kilifi County, is in distress as her hopes to join a secondary school remain futile due to a lack of school fees. Josephine Katana, who was forced to repeat Standard 8 in 2021 to allow her brother to join secondary school, is now appealing for help from well-wishers to fund her to join WA Girls Secondary School in Kwale County to pursue her dream of becoming a doctor. Her parents can hardly bring food to the table due to the poverty that has been made worse by an unprecedented dry spell in the area that has dried up crops, including coconut trees that the family depended on for upkeep. According to Josephine's teacher Gunga Mwalimu, a number of 2022 KCPE candidates from his school are still at home due to a lack of school fees.
Nilimaliza KCPE last year, nilipata marks 358. Tangu watu waliporipoti shule, mimi sijaripoti shule kwa sababu ni ya fee, hakuna fee. Nimejaribu kote lakini bado sijafanikiwa bado. Nilikuwa mwenyewe ni maoni yangu ilikuwa nisome, nikuwe daktari ili nijisaidie wengine. Nahisi vibaya sana kwa sababu wenzangu wanasoma. Tulikuwa tunasoma sote, watu wameripoti shule, mimi bado niko nyumbani. Na hiyo kwanza tayari nilikosa introduction ya form 1 yote nilikosa. Hata atakuwa mbele maybe. Wazazi walikuwa wanategemea mnazi na hakuna pombe tena. Njia mnazi nayo ikakauka yenye ambayo ilikuwa bado iko vizuri ili uzwa yote. Nahitaji mtu yote ambaye anaweza kunisaidia, anisaidie. Ili nami niweze kusoma kama wenzangu.
Mtoto wangu huyu alisoma kutoka klasi cha kwanza afuni nasari, akatengeneza vizuri, akaenda klasi cha kwanza mpaka cha 7 mpaka cha 8, akatengeneza vizuri. Sasa wakawa wawili, yeye na mkubwa wake. Sasa ikabidi tujaribu kumbembeleza huyu au amwachie yule mkubwa wake ende skuli. Ndio huyu akakubali, yule mkubwa wake akaenda. Sasa huyu naye ndio hivi sasa naye amemaliza mwaka jana, amtengeza vizuri. Nafasi mzee sina kabisa. Sababu nimesomesha watoto wangapi? Huyu ni 5. Sababu ya wenzake wale waliofanya nao mtihani wote wameenda skuli. Sasa mbakia yeye tu. Sasa juzi ndio kama vile ulivyomuona, mara analia. Asema mimi naona baba tahiri nijimalize kabisa. Manake naona mimi sitasoma. Namwambia mama sifanye hivyo. Tahiri nijiwe mimi babako kule kujiua wewe. Manake mimi kidogo miaka mingi, wewe bado mchanga, ukijimaliza utakuwa umepoteza mambo mengi. Sasa saa zote basi mtu wako kumbembeleza.
Kufikia saa hii mimi kwa mwalimu wa shule hii na pia mkazi wa hii eneo, kuna idadi nzuri ambao bado iko nyumbani. Japo kuna wengine wazazi walijitahidi kupeleka watoto shule, lakini kuna idadi nzuri sana bado wako nyumbani. Hiyo ni kwa sababu ya wazazi wengi wa huku kwetu wametegemea kazi moja ambayo ni ukulima, kazi ya kugema. Na kufikia saa hii kwa sababu ya ukame ama kiangazi, ile kazi wametegemea sana, hiyo yote kwa sababu jua minazi imeanguka, minazi imekufa. Sasa uwezo wa mzazi kupeleka shule mtoto umekuwa haba sana.
The much-awaited launch of Typhoon 1 satellite into space today has been delayed by 24 hours and is now set for launch on Wednesday, that is tomorrow at 9:44 a.m. in Nairobi. In a joint statement, the Ministry of Defence and the Kenya Space Agency said the move has been occasioned by unfavorable upper-level wind conditions that would have affected the rocket's flight trajectory. US-based SpaceX, which manufactures and launches the world's most advanced rockets and spacecraft, announced a delay of the liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket, which will be transporting Typhoon 1 alongside other satellites into the orbit. Typhoon 1 satellite is Kenya's first operational Earth observation satellite and is equipped with an optical camera that takes pictures simultaneously in multispectral and panchromatic modes, enabling it to operate within and beyond the visible light spectrum.
Space technology allows us to understand our environment better, and this unlocks our ability to adapt better to the same environment, which is the essence of survival. In the area of agriculture and food security, our faculty and students will be able to use the images provided by the satellite to monitor soil moisture, crop health, and weather conditions more accurately. This will enable us to make more informed decisions about when and how to plant and harvest crops, ensuring that our farmers have the resources and information they need to produce crops and livestock more efficiently and sustainably. Apart from research opportunities based on space data that will result from these missions, we are already proud of partners of the Kenya Space Agency. We have taken part in research grants in which our students have built models of nanosatellites for capacity building purposes. Through such opportunities, our students have actively interacted with the experts from the Space Agency, leading to a much improved awareness among our upcoming scientists and engineers on the significance of space science and technology and the opportunities it's capable of unlocking for them in future. But perhaps most importantly, the launch of our Earth observation satellite represents a symbol of our country's commitment to progress and development.
In our business news for today, Uganda-based Pearl Dairy Farms is eyeing an acquisition in Kenya following a $21 million equivalent to 2.8 billion Kenya shillings investment by the International Finance Corporation (IFC) to facilitate expansion between the two countries. In a disclosure, IFC stated that the investment will support capacity expansion plans in Kenya and Uganda, including the acquisition of a packing plant in Kenya and an upgrade and capacity increase of the firm in Uganda. The World Bank's private sector investment firm will also invest $14 million equivalent to 1.87 billion Kenya shillings in refinancing the firm's existing loan in Standard Chartered Bank in Uganda. IFC further noted that it will partner with Dutch Entrepreneurial Development Bank FMO for a $35 million loan package to support the project. And Vivo Energy Kenya, the distributor and marketer of Shell products and services in the country, has announced the donation of 35,000 litres of diesel to the National Steering Committee on Drought Response. The donation aims at aiding the Kenya Tulindane initiative, which was launched by President William Ruto to support efforts to alleviate the impact of drought on the over 4.35 million Kenyans suffering from the effects of the ongoing drought in the country. According to Vivo Energy Kenya Managing Director Peter Murungi, the donation will go a long way to assist in providing some relief to those affected by drought and help to ensure that communities have access to essential resources during these challenging times. 35,000 litres of the donated fuel will enable the desilting of water pans and boreholes in 32 counties to provide water for affected Kenyans.
It will be my pleasure to declare that we decided to donate 35,000 litres. It happens to be one truckload of fuel. We're going to make sure that fuel is available to the National Steering Committee in a controlled way to go to the activity of helping in the borehole, the silting, even if it is coming with the new boreholes, because we believe that is very critical.
Out of the 23 counties, 22 counties were on drought mode of various stages, with about 5 counties on alarm and 2 counties about to drift to emergency. We have about 6 million Kenyans who are food insecure, and that is from the 23 counties, with additional 9 counties with 45 wards. We call them pockets of drought within additional 9 counties. We look forward to look at what resilient measures can we put in place.
We came up with a plan. I sourced around 47 technical personnel, both retired and serving from KDF. Those I have worked with before. And with this staff, these are the technical people I know they can be able to work on the ground. We also submitted a plan for technical support where we have equipment called test pumping units. These test pumping units are basically recovery units, borehole recovery units that are used to recover pumps from the boreholes, because we want to do repairs. We want to understand what is happening.
And in our sports news for today, the UEFA Champions League resumes tonight with Bayern Munich travelling to the Etihad Stadium to face Manchester City in the quarter-finals. Both Pep Guardiola and Thomas Tuchel will be working to take an advantage into the second portion of 90 minutes at the Allianz Arena in Germany next week, with Manchester City also in the midst of a crunch run of fixtures across competitions. In another fixture slated for tonight, Benfica will also host Inter Milan at the Estadio do Sport Lisboa in Benfica. Both fixtures will start at 10 p.m. East African time. And elsewhere, KCB Bank Kenya has launched its inaugural East Africa Golf Tour that will traverse 6 countries and 12 counties in Kenya. Dubbed the KCB East Africa Golf Tour, the 8-month-long series will comprise an 18-leg amateur series in Kenya, with Tanzania and Uganda fielding 2 series each, with the Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda and Burundi hosting 1 tournament each. The entry into the East African nations will give an opportunity to regional golf enthusiasts to participate in the tournaments. It will be open to professionals, amateurs and juniors. The winning golfers from each club will converge at the Karen Country End Golf Club for the grand finale in November 2023, where 200 golfers from 40 teams across East Africa will compete at the Pro-Am event.
We really want to be at the center of what we will make this country in the next few years. This is just one of them. Bwana Waziri, we have a number of programs that, working with the ministry, we should be able to actually demonstrate that as KCB we want to give back to the society. That's what we mean when we say for people, for better. It's exactly what we're going to push through.
KCB has already invested heavily in sports, and what they're now doing with this East Africa tour is to consolidate that space, is to structure that space and to expand that space. And that's why being here really for me is to give that guarantee that we want to do more with KCB in this area. And we also see the work KCB is doing as a diplomatic thrust, as a diplomatic spearhead to just strengthen the ties that bind the East African region, the East African community.
And as we bring our bulletin for today to a close, our conversation on mediation for peace continues with insights by Njeri Ndiangui, who is the Executive Director of Bridges of Peace Initiative. In this segment, Njeri talks to our news editor Melissa Odwar, painting the picture of conflict through the lenses of the common Kenyan and that of national leaders who are engaged in recent political conflict that triggered anti-government protests leading to the loss of life and property. Do have a listen to that conversation as we bring the bulletin for today to an end. My name is Tiffany Wamboy. Our sign language interpreter has been Boniface Muredi.
Now take it to the national level.
Yes.
Where we're having the president and the opposition leader at one point talking to Kenyans and then letting the Kenyans go to the streets to agitate for things that look like they are of concern to an ordinary Kenyan.
Yeah.
And then these things morph from one issue to the next. And there are now 4 issues. We're fighting for 5. And then they call for a truce. So we are Kenyans here wondering, okay, we were on the streets at one point, and now we are sitting back because there's a truce.
Yeah.
So I think, talk to me as a Kenyan. I'm in that space where I went to the streets to call for something that I felt was needful for me. The price of life. the living standards were a bit too high. And yes, I wanted the price of unga to come down. I did. I went to the streets and agitated. We got killed, we got shot at, a lot of drama happened. So I'm back in my house and I'm wondering, now I'm being told that's the end. We're not protesting anymore. I'm like, okay. So help me to process this as a Kenyan, even before we talk about the two leaders. As a Kenyan, how do I process all this? Was I being taken for granted? Was I being used to further an agenda that really was bigger than just the unga that I was thinking I was agitating for?
Number one, I think we're in a political situation. It's a political conflict.
Okay.
Yes. It's a political conflict, which actually calls for a political solution. Okay? And politics means that people are involved. It's a game of numbers. And politicians will always be politicians. And politicians will always go to the people because that's where their powers lies. Okay?
With the people.
With the people.
Okay.
And so when the people go to the streets, okay, whoever it is will have to listen. The government will have to listen. Institutions will have to listen, because the people have spoken, right? So people have been going for mandamanos. Well, we have politicians involved over here, right? These politicians, number one, they have their own agendas. They have their own interests and they have their own needs, whatever it is. Okay? But they know the only way their interests and their needs can be met is going to the people.
Through me.
Through you.
As an ordinary Kenyan.
They make sure there must be an agenda that directly touches on us. Okay? And in this particular case, we have the issue of cost of living.
Yes.
Who hasn't it touched?
Yes.
We
all agree that, the cost of living right now is too high.
Absolutely. So if Raila comes and tells us, guys, the cost of living is the way it is because of the government, right?
Yes.
And we need the government to listen to us, and we need government to do certain things. Of course, all of us will go to the streets, okay? And even more, it's the cost of living. But then remember, where have these demonstrations been happening?
The low income.
In the slums, low income places, right?
Yes.
And already these people are struggling with a lot of things in their lives. So the mandamanos actually becomes a place of venting. Whether that food cost will go down or not, number one, they've gotten a place to go and vent.
It's an opportunity for me to let out.
Exactly. It's an opportunity for many people to go and let out. The mandamano, there are people who are benefiting from it. There are people who will still want those mandamanos to continue because they are direct beneficiaries of it.
So is it then a summary that every time there is a conflict, there is somebody who is benefiting
Absolutely.
from it?
Wherever there is a conflict, there's someone who is benefiting from it. And you must always ask yourself, who is benefiting from this?
Oh my gosh, I'm heartbroken.
Yes, someone is benefiting from it. Okay? So, and that's why it becomes complicated.
How can I disentangle myself from this person who is benefiting from my pain?
How do you even know who is benefiting from your pain? That's why it becomes complicated. Because then it's a mix of everything. Okay? There are people who are going for mandamanos because it's an opportunity for them to steal. There are people who are going for mandamanos because it's an opportunity for something, there's an interest they have somewhere that is going to be met. Okay? There are politicians who are going for those mandamanos and calling for those mandamanos, even though maybe, yes, cost of living is an issue, but they have other issues that they want that will directly benefit them. Okay? But again, we cannot view it as entirely as a bad thing. Because as I said earlier, there are also benefits that comes from when a conflict happens. Because it is telling us that something is not working. There's something that needs to be reviewed. Do we need the cost of living going down?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely.
there's something that needs to be done. Okay? But again, maybe it is the people being out there, the government is going to listen. Perhaps is going to see how it can do something about it. Okay? Are there processes that perhaps needs to be reviewed? Maybe yes. Because remember, in this country, something like elections have become a trigger. Historically, I don't know. I mean, for as long as I've been alive, the years I've been alive, elections have always been a trigger, and they trigger conflicts all the time. Okay, the 2007, it was really bad. But again, it birthed the 2010 Constitution. Okay. It doesn't mean that getting a new constitution has resolved all our problems.
Not really.
The constitution has created new problems, and the constitution has resolved
other old problems.
Okay, and the constitution has also created other opportunities for growth, and that means maybe there are systems that still need to change. Okay, and still going for the maandamano. Okay, then it means something still needs to be resolved, and the government might as well listen, okay, and see what needs to be changed. And if it changes, we as the community as well will benefit from it.
So now these two leaders have struck a truce now, called off, we are not protesting. And they've decided they're going to sit and allow Parliament to discuss these issues that have emerged, in a bipartisan way and find a way forward. And so as Parliament sits down to do this, one end says, if we do not resolve it the way we want things resolved, we will go back to the streets. So talk about mediation at this point. What is supposed to be taking place? What is the process of mediation supposed to look like for a win-win situation?
For a start, I really want to commend our President, Ruto, for allowing to really, be willing to eat a humble pie and accept for talks to happen. I think that's absolutely important, because I think the trend at which we were going was not sustainable. It was not sustainable socially, it was not sustainable economically. Okay, remember, a lot of our people, they live hand to mouth. We have to go to work every day so that we can eat that day. Okay, so if he did to meet with them, and then they increase the frequency of maandamanos from Mondays and Thursdays to Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays to Fridays, because the more they don't listen, the more they're going to increase the intensity. Because they will keep on saying the government is the enemy. The government has refused to listen to us. What is it that they want? I think clearly they wanted to be listened to. I think they wanted to feel heard. And I think they want to feel understood. And the moment that has been given to them, I think they call for a truce. Which I think in a way is quite healthy for our country. Because it's not wise to allow the country to go down the drains. We wouldn't want to go, back where we were in 2007 or even worse. Okay? And then eventually you still have to talk. So it is better to actually agree to talk early enough. Because when you agree to talk, whenever people communicate, they can find a solution. When you don't talk to each other, it becomes impossible to find a solution. So absolutely a step to be commended. So thank you, Mr. President, for that. So how would that look like? I think they called for a bipartisan approach towards this, which I think he said they don't want it to go to Parliament, if I'm right. I think they were.
No, the Parliament is the one that's supposed to be discussing it. Even though for the opposition, they don't want to. We want Parliament, but
that's right.
Other players should also be involved.
Exactly, other players to be involved. So I think this is where I think they also need mediators, right? In 2007 we had Kofi Annan, plus other people I think who had joined from the AU. This time round, I don't know who it is that needs to come in, and I think it has to be someone that both sides can feel, will be impartial, someone that can actually be trusted by both sides. That becomes important. It has to be someone who is credible, and both sides feel like this person can actually look into the interest of both sides. And if that actually happens, and they agree to talk to each other, okay, of course it requires that they bring people who are also willing to negotiate. Negotiating means give and take.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When they are going out there into the streets, they are placing their positions. Okay. We want this. This must be done. This must be done. This must be done. Okay. But then when mediation process happens, what happens is that they can go below those positions. Okay? They can go and see what are the fears for these people. What are the deepest needs for these people? What is it that is driving these positions? Okay? Why do they want a different system of, selecting the IEBC?
Yes.
What is driving that? How would that look like? And they can all have a conversation around that. The biggest tragedy will be if it's all hardliners on both sides who are not willing to
sit ground.
Yes, exactly, and come to a common ground. Who are not willing to see, what is realistic. What are the needs of the other group? What are the interests of the other group? And how can you make sure that all are taken care of? Yeah. So if they just bring hardliners who are not willing to give and take, then what happens? It takes us back to perhaps what the opposition said, back to the streets.
Yes.
And what happens if you go back to the streets? I think that is going to be a tragedy.
That's terrible.
It's going to be a tragedy.
How do you wrap up this conversation where conflict is good for the society? Conflict is good because it creates change, it gives us other perspectives that we can have. So in wrapping up this conversation, what would be our take home as a nation, as a people, when we're looking at this conflict that the country is facing right now?
I think the government and the opposition, they need to sit and talk, agree to agree, agree to disagree. I think they need to retain that war in the boardrooms. Okay? They need to make sure that it doesn't go outside there. For them to really have conversations and be open-minded and be realistic and not to allow really the poor people to go out and to suffer anymore. Already people are having it very difficult. They are already having it very tough, So, and because it is them, really, they're the policy makers. They're the people who create structures and systems for our countries. Okay? I think it will be, what will it take for them to actually have conversations until they can be able to reach a place where they can agree on things that they can both be able to agree. Because really coming back to the streets, it's having such negative effect, and I think it might take us on a path that we might not be able to redeem ourselves and to recover. But if they sit down, those are political conflicts, and them as politicians are in a position to sit and come up with political solutions. It is very doable, and not for them not to be selfish, really. I mean, nobody should have died. Some people have lost their lives. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? It shouldn't have been like that, And I think no more lives should be lost because people cannot agree to talk to each other. I think people should put their egos aside and look at what is good for the people, what is good for the country. Because this country, as someone once said, it's bigger than all of us, and should not allow our own selfish interest to come in between, and for one more person to lose life because of a political disagreement and political conflict.
Thank you very much, Njeri Ndiang'ui, the Executive Director of Bridges of Peace Initiative, for that candid conversation on conflict resolution and mediation in this country. Until another time, my name is Melissa Odor.